I got stuck on a roller coaster at Alton Towers.
Oh, see, my idea of hell.
Yeah, I got stuck in the black hole.
What?
This is the kind of audience I want for my anecdotes.
What is the black hole, Danny?
So it's a roller coaster in the dark.
No.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
If I'd have been there, you would have felt a hell of a lot happier. Lighting it up.
And it's one of those roller coasters where you're straddling someone.
Sorry, you
What?
So you get on, and you both in like a cart, and one of you has to sit with your legs out, and then the other kind of sits like...
Oh, OK. And you were the one with the legs out?
I was the one with the legs out.
Were you with the stranger? Did you not mean...
Yes!
Why? Oh! Wait, where are your
'Cause
friends?
I was in a 3, and those two paired up,
Okay.
and I wasn't gonna like miss out on the black hole, and then we just ran out of momentum. I mean the cart, not like the conversation. And we were there for about 5 minutes, just sat there. At one point, you could hear the other carts coming down. It was absolutely terrifying. And then they got us off in the end, and they went, "You can have free tickets to go again." We were like, no!
Just the guy had a soaking wet back from where you pissed yourself.
So a nuclear chain reaction typically takes 50 to 100 shakes. What?
God, I'm gonna get this really wrong.
Go on, then.
Go on, then. We'll enjoy it.
Comes some more racism, I imagine.
It'd be so beautiful. It'd be like the those fountains in what are those fountains called in the fountains called in Las Vegas where they Bellagio. Oh my God, I cried when I saw those.
They're the ones where they fire out and land in a hole.
No.
They're my favourite films.
Honest to God, it's like being in an old people's home.
He toured the Middle East, did he?
Oh, he toured the Middle East.
Right.
I saw a fountain once.
Did you?
OK.
So he toured the Middle East.
So he took
Tell us
this-
about the dark room again.
When we going on the roller coaster?
You said we was going on a roller coaster. I never pissed myself.
I've got front.
Let's have a quick listen to the original James Bond theme. The composer is a man called Monty Norman, and it actually comes from a song about a man with an unlucky sneeze, which he reworked into the James Bond theme. It was originally called Bad Sign, Good Sign, and it didn't sound at all like the original song. Have a listen to this.
Can I have some onion barges, please?
I was born with this unlucky sneeze, and what is worse, I came into the world the wrong way round.
Okay,
This is surely bullshit.
This is true. V.S. Paul's novel, A House for Mr. Biswas, is a wonderful novel, and Mr. Biswas has a terrible sneeze, and it's unlucky for him. And Monty Norman wrote a musical version of this, which was not a huge success. He was later hired to write the music for the first Bond film, which was Dr. No. He reworked the theme tune into the James Bond theme tune. So we thought we'd do a bit of, I'm going to call it karaoke, because it starts with a Q. We're going to try and see if we can sing the original James Bond theme tune. So the words are going to come up on the screen for you. Let's do it.
I was born with this unlucky sneeze, and what is worse, I came into the world the wrong way round. It's all agree that I'm the reason why father fell into the village pond and drowned.
Now, for a bit of role play, 3 of you have got police hats under your desk. Paddy, I want you to play good cop. Holly, you play bad cop. Alan, you're going to be normal cop.
yeah, it's good.
I don't have the voice to play a bad cop.
Go for it.
I can't, like, I can't swear with this voice. It doesn't, like, give me your fucking secrets. It just sounds delightful.
Nish has a secret. I want the 3 of you to find out what it is. Please.
You look like a traffic warden.
Right.
It looks like someone from the Village People.
I think he's about to go to a hen night in Strip.
Right, Fishes in the spotlight.
Oh, my
He's got a
God.
secret. Come on.
This is American immigration all over again.
Go on, you start.
I know you've got something going on, mate.
Wow. Leave it, you've gone too far.
Oh, we're a comedian, are we?
Actually, yes.
No, it'd be nice. It'd be nice.
It's a lovely beard you have there, Nish.
Thanks very much, Andy. I've had it combed, and I also really love the fact that you've turned your policeman hat backwards and are wearing it like Samuel L. Jackson's Kangol.
That's what I'm talking about.
Hashtag time's up. We can't flirt at work anymore.
Wait, hang on. You're supposed to be the bad cop.
All right, Sonny, Jim.
Sonny Jim.
I'm sorry about this, Mr. Kumar. It's an absolute nightmare.
It's like being interrogated by Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins.
Just tell us what the secret is and I'll call her off.
I haven't got a secret. I'm an upstanding member of society. I've not even taken cocaine, in spite of the size and volume of my nose.
Good cop?
Tell us your secret.
No, that's not good. Go to it, be like, listen, sir, I'm terribly sorry
We
to pull you
switched
in
round.
here.
Oh, we're switching round.
Yeah.
Tell us your secret, you...
I think it's
Sonny Jim!
Are you going to confess?
I will confess to farting in Sandy's dressing room.
Oh, my God. This farted in Sandy.
Get them to sign it.
You have a right to remain silent but violent.
I'm really worried, Holly. You're getting into it now.
Shut your
How many real friends do you have?
Just one, James Taylor.
What a friend you have in him, yeah.
I've
Moving
got to
on.
4.
4 friends you've counted, have you?
Well, actually, I'm not sure about him. Because he once spiked my drinks and stole my trousers when I was...
No, you can definitely cross him out.
He's coming off the list, yeah.
Which did you do first?
Drinks first, Phil.
I don't know, maybe he's agile.
Good friend. You say that a friend will help you, a friend will come over to your house and help you move, and a good friend will help you move a body.
That's good.
I have 2 good friends.
Oh, Rich! Oh, that's disturbing. There is this thing called a Dunbar number. Does that mean anything
Yeah, it's
to you?
about 100 and something.
You're right. There was a
120
professor
or
of
something.
evolutionary anthropology at Oxford University called Dunbar who calculated, if the calculation is the right word, that we can't have more than 150 friends. And obviously, some of us have a very high doctrine of friends.
150?
Yeah. He defines it this way.
I don't even know 150 people.
It's a network. It's a network.
I was going to say 5.
Right, well, I know what you mean. But he defines this friendly network as containing the people you wouldn't feel embarrassed to join at the bar in the transit lounge of Hong Kong Airport at 3 a.m.
Oh, no, thousands of them.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been embarrassed to join anyone at a bar in my life.
Yeah. It's a peculiar definition.
That is, yeah.
It's an odd one. But on the other hand,
Is
the
there something
number...
about this particular transit lounge?
I don't know. But 150 does turn out to be quite a special number amongst peoples and groups. It's the average size of traditional hunter-gatherer communities, small religious groups such as the Amish, and the average English village size at the time of the Doomsday Book. It also occurs all over the modern world. It's the number of Christmas cards the average person sends, apparently. 130? 150. The size of a company in all modern armies is 150, as opposed to battalion or platoon. And it's also close to the average number of friends people have on Facebook, which is 130 odd. So it is strangely... It seems to be the number beyond which it's too many, and any less than that is a closer friend. But it's also... When we say friend, we mean someone, as you say...
We
someone
like.
who'll bury a body for you. Yeah. Facebook. Are you all on Facebook? No.
I don't
You are.
really go on the computer.
I read a prediction the other day that said that at the current rate, in 10 years' time, 1 in 3 marriages in America will be people who met online. It's already 1 in 8. It's amazing, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Is that bad?
Well, you just fill out a lot of forms, don't you? Here's everything I like.
Oh, no,
Meet
they
someone
don't necessarily meet on dating sites. Well,
Oh.
some of them will be, I agree, but...
How else do you meet if you're not on a dating site, though?
Join a group.
You join a group.
Yeah, join a
Chat.
Facebook group with like-minded people.
Oh, right.
They send you witty remarks.
And which are the most
Eventually, you send them a photograph of your genitals.
Yes. You know... Whoa. Well, Alan, that's the most popular so far, the genitals.
The genitals.
Of the genitals.
So it's just like a normal courtship, then, but
Yeah,
done digitally.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I
feel quite bad, you know, for the Amish in this situation because, you know, they're not going to meet people on Facebook, are they? Unless we create an Amish Facebook where you just write everything you know about yourself on a sheet of paper and put it in a barrel in the middle of the village. People can just dip in and out of, you know.
It's true, because they don't have electricity.
Raise the barn today, lol.
In the Middle Ages, what shape did people think the world was?
Flat.
I know we all think they did, but there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever. They all thought it was round. They all wrote about it as round. The Greeks knew that it was round.
Round and flat?
No, they thought it was a sphere. Terry Jones, the Python, who is something of a medievalist, as you may know, he blames Washington Irving, the American writer, for one of those being who started this lie, as he puts it. The Greeks knew it was round, he says. Chaucer knew it was round. Roger Bacon wrote about the curvature of the Earth in the 13th century. So, apparently...
Well, I think the majority of people didn't really care.
No, but they started.
As indeed, we don't now actually care that it's round. If it was square, it wouldn't bother me. I'd rush to the edge. In fact, I'd want to go right to the corner.
And sit on the corner.
How do we know it's round?
Yeah, huh?
Round the world tickets.
One is photographing. Photographing it was a very big help. We took a photograph and we saw that it was
yes,
round.
but then you could say that about anything about people going to the moon, and we know they didn't.
If it weren't round, all the flights of aeroplanes, if it weren't round, just nothing that we...
How do we know they just don't fly, just circle round for a bit and let you think that you're going miles and miles and miles and just come down, like, you know, a couple of hours away, and they've set Russia up a lot nearer than it is?
It's a really, 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 really long oblong shape.
On a track, like an electric bike, and they just move it.
Whizzing
the
around.
plane goes up, the plane doesn't move. They move the country in front of them.
Are all the stars round?
I can't answer that. I think probably most...
But yet you know what people thought 500 years ago.
Can I read books? Yes. Have I visited every star in the universe? No. Is that something that you find difficult to understand? You set me off. You've set Sir off again.
Don't you think that this series has reached the point, with a dedicated following who trust us, that this would be the point where you could say just one thing in a show? You could say, just like this, the world isn't round. It's been proven. Most people will now believe it who watch this show.
Well, I can say with some confidence, ladies and gentlemen, the world is not round. It is an oblate spheroid.
No, that's not what I meant.
No, I'm sorry. I was being literally...
Pine cone. If you'd said the world is shaped like a pine cone. Just to see how many letters we get.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it? Get some at last, anyway. Apart from the... well, you know who you are, don't you? And I tried it, and it was a disaster. Yes, no, since the 4th century BC, almost no one in the history of the world has believed that the Earth is flat. It's a common misconception, and indeed the song lyric, they all laughed at Christopher Columbus when he said the world was round. But he didn't think that the world was round. He thought it was actually pear-shaped. I've got my hands on the American nuclear trigger. Without putting yourselves to too much effort, see if you can tell me what the code is.
Secret trigger code.
The secret trigger code given to every American president between the years of 1960 and 1977.
I think that if you've got to remember it under pressure,
Yes.
and it would be a pressure situation,
Surely.
beginning the end of the world, it's got to be something quite simple.
It's 000000000. That literally was the code.
4 zeros twice. 8
8
zeros.
0.
8 0.
I've got it back. 8 zeros. That was the password.
Is that because you're just about... It's the end of the world and you're going to go, oh. Did the president, when he's testing this, did he do the chip and pin, you know, that little dance you do when is the shopkeeper just looking at you and you kind of go...
Or pretend to press.
Or you do a book, because I just do a cover.
No, because you not notice polite shopkeepers now do this, which is what they call the penny chews. You just go like that and they do
I think it's pretend to do other numbers than the ones they're doing. Yeah. So you're there with the lovely Debbie McGee going...
Do your number, but while you're doing your number, you say a different number slightly under your breath, so you look like a bit of an idiot.
Well, that's like all rubbing your tummy and patting your head.
Like
yes, that is clever.
His number's 457.
But because the people I always most hated at school were those who, when they were writing in a test, did that.
Yeah.
As if one cared about what
That's
dribble they wrote.
because you're not an idiot.
Oh, no. It's just such a creepy way of behaving. So I always just do like that, grandly make sure that my number is I published mine in The Sun once. It went quite badly wrong. That was very funny. I couldn't understand it because they were complaining that everybody's bank details had been left on a train by a civil servant or somebody, and I thought, well, it doesn't make any difference because all they can do is make a deposit. So I published my number, and there you go, there's my bank account number. What are you going to do with that? And the Diabetic Society helped themselves to 500 quid. Well, what do you call an Irishman with no nipples? That's Richard Harris, of course.
In A Man Called Horse.
Man Called Horse.
It's a great movie, isn't it? It seemed extreme when I first saw that, but now there's guys in Camden Town that have that done.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be an Edinburgh show now, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Part of the festival.
He deserved 10 times worse than that for writing MacArthur Park.
Oh, yes. Cake left out in the rain.
Yeah, someone left the cake in the rain. Who cares?
My nan left the cake out in the rain. It would have absorbed all the rain. She made a very dry cake.
He didn't actually write, to be fair, to Richard Harris. It was written by Judy Webb, but he did sing it. And he's guilty of that. But this question isn't about Richard Harris. This is about Irishmen with no nipples. It seems bizarre, but there is a real historical point of interest here. What could an Irishman never be if he had no nipples?
Symmetric.
We're going back to the past. Symmetric. We're going back into the past in Ireland. It's a very peculiar thing, but part of your way of showing loyalty to your sovereign, if you were an Irish subject in the ancient days of the Irish kings, was you had to suck their nipples. Right? So, and you may say, well, OK, but what kind of person doesn't have nipples? There would be fights, contests, and people would apply, as it were, to be King of Ireland. And if they were found not suitable, they would have their nipples cut off, which meant they could never be King of Ireland.
Sorry, they did it like Britain's Got Talent.
Basically, yes.
This is how Britain's Got Talent should just tweak it so that it's the same.
It would be quite something. But there was Old Crochan Man, which was one of the peat bog discoveries, and he was so well preserved that when he was discovered, it wasn't archaeologists or museums or anthropologists who got in touch with it, it was the police. But in fact, it was from between 300-odd to 100-odd BC that this person had died.
So the chances of getting...
well preserved.
You would describe that as a cold case.
No, you would.
The chances of getting a conviction...
But he was so well preserved, people said, oh, my God, here's this recently killed body. But he was found with nipples pinched and cut off. So he appears to have been someone who basically was deprived ritually of his attribute of kingship before being killed. So there you are. That seems to be the case. But there are extra points if you can tell me the national colour of Ireland.
Well, this feels like a trap.
It does indeed.
That's the flag, but that's not necessarily an indication of what the national colour is.
Blue. National colour.
Blue is the right answer.
Get in.
Very good. Well done. Yeah. The fact is, of course, it's changed. Now everybody thinks it's green, and green is where one paints themselves green in Chicago and New York for St. Patrick's Day. But St. Patrick's colour was blue, and it was known as St. Patrick's blue. The coat of arms of Ireland, you may see, is a shield of a harp against a ground of St. Patrick's blue. And the Irish Guards are distinct because of the blue in their bearskins. So blue was always really the colour of Ireland until really... It was in 1798 when they had one of their many rebellions, and green then became a symbol of Irish nationalism and sort of took over from blue.
Sucking a king's nipples was a gesture of submission in ancient Ireland, so if you lost yours, you couldn't be king.
Where would you put your ladder if you wanted to get into space?
On top of the spaceship, on a rack. A red flag hanging off of it so some other spaceships don't follow you too closely.
It's a conceptual question. How about this? Up against a wall of silence.
You should have railings built round you and people would come and worship you as a kind of modern Buddha. You've got the look, I have to say.
Oh.
No, it's a good look.
Thank you very much.
Good Buddha look.
Rural Buddhas.
Yeah.
So there, right? Wisdom and cheat cider.
You're saying where you put the ladder, you'd assume, I suppose, the obvious answer is you'd put it on the highest point, like Everest.
Yes, that wouldn't...
It'd be a bit bumpy, wouldn't it? You couldn't get a good foothold on it.
It's sometimes called a space ladder. It's more commonly called a space elevator. It is a genuine idea that has been worked on, and many people believe would have saved the space program an enormous amount of money in various ways, was to build a huge elevator that goes from Earth and is counterweighted at the other end and spin round incredibly fast. But it would be an equivalent of geostationary orbit at the end of it, and you would have elevators on it that would go up and down.
With a phone that didn't work in it. I'm stuck on the... I'm about 87,000 miles.
There's some kind of
beyond Venus.
There's some kind of a door in the roof.
It was Arthur C. Clarke who particularly believed in this thing, but NASA spent a lot of money on it. But the important point is you would have to do it on the equator, where the Earth goes at its fastest. Because it's the bit, you know, like the end of a record goes faster than the middle, obviously.
What about a series of trampolines? They have a huge trampoline, and then up higher up there's another one about half a mile up, and then another one. So it's like a staircase of trampolines going up into space, and then there's a big bouncy castle at the top. And a bloke charging you £1, and you've got to take your shoes off. I'd tell you the best way to get into space. I would tell you, I've just realised it, and it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. I'm going to be so rich. Bubble. A bubble. Get in a bubble, just float up there.
One day.
I mean, a big bubble. I'm not talking about... Not talking about those bubbles you see and think, that's not a bubble. Stupid little one. You call that a bubble, mate? You want to come and see my bubble? No, a big bubble, you get in the bubble and off you go.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Who wants in?
Me.
This is like the Dragon's Den for cranky ideas.
How about this? You could just imagine.
Oh, Bill. Huh? Bill, that's so beautiful.
It's the wisdom of the rural Buddha.
The Dalai Farmer.
Very good.
Excellent. I've been struggling with that for about 5 minutes. Got to be something in this.
Oh, your synapses are firing beautifully. Use your synapses to fire people into space.
Who is the coolest, grooviest, hippest cat on the show tonight?
David Tennant, I would have thought.
Yeah.
I'm going for Belton.
Yeah, could be. What do we know about these words?
They're jazz words.
Ah,
Jazz.
many of them are jazz words. And how old are they?
Since the 20s, 30s?
Early...
40s?
No, earlier. Stone Age.
Let's take the word cool. When did it first mean, like, fashionable, do you think?
60s beatnik poet era.
Hitler.
Oddly enough, it was the year Hitler came to power, 1933, but I don't think that's quite relevant.
These new uniforms are cool.
1933. Bizarrely.
So this is Christmas.
I'm joining the Nazi party. They're cool, Daddy-o.
Cool, Daddy-o.
Bizarrely, it was 1933.
And besides, I have no choice.
Yeah.
I burned down the Reichstag. Cool. Jazz Nazis, eh?
It was the West Coast School of... But it was the West Coast...
Jazz Nazis are used both ways.
It was the West Coast School of relaxed jazz led by Miles Davis. And his album, The Birth of the Cool,
Ah, yes. 1957, which, oddly enough, is the year I was born.
Extraordinary.
So maybe I am cool. Cool.
I love that if you saying all that as a chat-up line in a nightclub. Yeah. Do you know who the coolest person in the room is tonight? No, let me explain. 1933. Cut to 2 hours later,
so cool.
and that, madam, is why I am cool. Can I get to another move?
Where's she gone?
Don't go.
Let's have an easy one to start with. Strictly speaking, where does the phrase chariots of fire come from?
It's a film.
Where does it originate?
It's something to do with this.
Where does the phrase originate? It's a quotation.
It's a quotation.
From what?
Shakespeare. Must be Shakespeare.
No.
And, those chariots of
Well,
fire.
Jerusalem, the hymn Jerusalem.
You fell finally into our
Finally!
trap.
Oh, sorry, it's the
slightly
first question.
embarrassing how long it took you to get the wrong answer. Yes, I did start by saying strictly speaking. Strictly speaking, it comes from a poem by William Blake called...
Chariots of Fire.
No. I'm ashamed of you. You must know the first line of...
I must, but I can't be asked to tell you.
And did
those feet in ancient times.
Thank you. Finally we got that.
Oh, I know that.
Yes. That's the name of the poem from which the line Chariots of Fire comes. The tune is called Jerusalem, and it's referred mistakenly as a hymn.
Thank you for starting in my key. Come on, England.
Come on! Bring, oh, clouds unfold. Yes, really what I'm after is, what does it mean?
What?
And whose feet?
Jesus, surely.
Right, so what is the story of Jesus coming to England?
Is there a film about it?
Yes.
And then
Not to my knowledge.
Well, then I'm in trouble.
Holy...
As they say, this is what people say now when they don't know the answer. They say, I'm out of my comfort zone.
You have been the equivalent of sitting on spikes for the last 10 years, Alan. Yet to discover your comfort zone. OK, listen, there is a legend that Jesus came to England, and he was said to have gone to a particular place.
Was it
The
Glastonbury?
audience knows. Ah, thank you.
Glastonbury.
Glastonbury, yes. Glastonbury tours. And he went with his uncle. What was his uncle's name?
Bob.
Uncle Bob Price.
Bob is your
They were more informal in those times, surely. Bob Price.
His uncle's name was the same as his father's name.
Joseph.
Joseph, and he was named after a place.
Is it like working with very slow children?
Thank you. Say it again so the camera can get it clearly.
Right. OK.
This is a new thing we're doing.
Hang on a second.
I was
proposing my faith.
Joseph of Arimathea.
No, I said it. I said it. Joseph of Arimathea.
I'm going to throw cold water at you both in a minute.
Yes. Joseph of Arimathea.
Now.
Joseph of Arimathea.
It was the first ever Glastonbury festival, if you will.
It was,
that
yes.
Jesus supposedly came with his uncle, Joseph of Arimathea, who is mentioned in the Gospels.
Right.
Although, it has to be said, Arimathea is only mentioned once, and that is in relation to the place Joseph came from. No one knows where it is, where it was, where it could have been. Anyway.
Could have been a falafel tent.
When is the present?
Oh, I'm not going to fall into that trap. Who's going to say it?
Well, it's not really a trap. It is a genuine interesting question. I mean, there are different ways of trying to describe what the present might be, but let's talk about the present in terms of archaeology. Archaeologists actually have an acronym, BP, which means before present, and they can date the present. It's an exact date, January the 1st, 1950.
That's the present.
That for archaeologists, and there's a very good reason for this, and you might be able to work it out. If you did, I'd be very impressed.
Is it plastics?
Not quite that.
Bakelite?
When archaeologists archaeologists are interested in the distant past, and recently, in the last 100 or so years, certain techniques have enabled us to discover. I say us, I mean
carbon dating.
Carbon dating has allowed us to discover how old things are. Now, in the 1950s, basically, they decided by January the 1st, 1950, we had so screwed up the atmosphere with nuclear testing that no carbon dating could be trusted after January the 1st, 1950. So that is known as the present.
See, these archaeologists need to learn a bit of physics, though. According to Einstein's theory of space and time,
Yes.
which is our best theory of space and time, there's no such thing as a present moment which spans the universe, or indeed even the Earth, or in fact even two people moving relative to each other.
It is absurd to think of an event that might be happening now in a galaxy and me doing this as being simultaneous. That has no meaning cosmically, does it?
You can swap the order of them,
Yes.
as long as they're not causally connected. I mean, we don't know how time works at a very fundamental level, actually.
But time's arrow. I mean, I actually got my head around that a bit.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
you
you
don't
mean-
need maths if you think that everything's going forward, and as it does, it decays.
Yes.
So then you understand entropy.
Yes.
I just look, for instance, all you need is an analogy to make that's pertinent to you. So in my case, all relationships. And then you realise, of course, you've got that perfect 18 months, and then they're dead.
The second law of sexual dynamics.
Yes, that's how according to me, that's how I extrapolate.
To make it statistically significant, though, you have to have an awful lot of relationships.
Oh, I do. And they really do
That's
all
very well
suffer the law
put.
of entropy.
What's the French for innuendo?
Is it double entendre? No, I've just remembered that double entendre is French for big tits, isn't it?
No, double entendre means nothing to a Frenchman. You could say double entente. Entente is like a...
Two-man tent.
Good. Or double sens, double sense, but they don't say double entendre.
So it's a French phrase that the French don't use. So
Yes.
it's not French.
Exactly. And that's precisely what this round of questions is about. There are other examples of that. Suppose you're at a performance, someone is very brilliant, and you want them to perform again.
Encore.
You'd shout encore. What would they shout in France?
More.
Good thought. But encore is a French word meaning more, but they don't shout encore when they want. They shout a Latin word, which means twice.
Anyone?
Anyone in the audience? Bis, bis, B-I-S.
Beef.
Beef.
Bis, bis, yeah, that's what they shout.
That's
They
crap.
should try encore.
You need to do a show, wouldn't you? And at the end, everyone goes, beef! It's like that.
Well, there are other phrases which we use, which sound French, but again mean nothing to a Frenchman. Cause célèbre is not a French phrase. Like ensuite for a bathroom, the French would they go, what?
Yeah. What about bidet?
Bidet they do indeed have, though it's easier really to do a handstand in the shower, to be honest. And if you want the expense of a bidet, yes.
Easier.
If you're as nimble as I am, yeah.
I'd pay good money to see that. I'd like to see you doing that with a camera going, tweet this.
The trouble is with the handstand in the shower, though. It's like, you know when you see a mountain stream and you think the water looks all right, but I don't know where it's been further on. When you're upside down and this water is pouring across your face, lodging in your nostrils, and you know that it's been...
That's a worry.
That's what puts... I had a friend who, he had read somewhere that if you slept upside down, it made you more intelligent because the blood went to your brain.
Yeah.
And I became obsessed with the idea that he would have a wet dream and die.
Oh, that's so, in so many ways, a horrific image. So, yes, there are words we use, décolletage, for example, we use for that. The French has used décolleté for that, not décolletage.
Excuse me, when you say we, you mean you?
Well, it's not a common phrase, but...
No, it's not. No, let me say, look at the décolletage on that.
Could you put...
You never stop learning. I've already learned how to say to my teenage sons, look at the knockers on that, without the mum getting annoyed.
And now you can
say décolletage.
Décolletage, I thought it too. Also, ensuite, which is used commonly these days for a bathroom that's connected to a bedroom. In France, they don't use the phrase
And, of course,
ensuite.
the ensuite.
Exactly.
Most commonly used.
There's a Greek phrase. The Greeks say katatria staeftika, I think it is. And it means who gives a shit.
No.
But literally it means there is trouble in the gypsy village.
It's true. Depending on where up you are on the social calendar, it's right, isn't it? It's, you know, most people wouldn't give a shit if they...
Anyway, that's the point. You can ask a Frenchman for a double entendre if you like, but you'll be lucky if he gives you one. Now to some... Key part did bigots play in the Second World War?
Bigots? What do you mean?
Bigots.
You're talking of...
Not that kind of bigot,
that kind
actually.
of bigot.
We're being a diversionary tactic
That's a bit of a minor description.
Yes, I think it is, exactly.
I don't think
This word is bigot with a bigot.
Oh, he was a bigot, was he? Oh, the more I hear about it. Is that an acronym, though, for something?
Yes,
Bigot.
it's an acronym. B-I-G-O-T. No, it's British. Churchill chose it.
Oh, really? Beware.
Brown-eyed girls on toast.
One trouser.
Beware, I've got one trouser. Yes.
I'm getting out
tomorrow.
Blimey! I've got...
It's gone off.
Owls! Turned...
Owls?
Owls.
He's so shit at I Spy, I can't tell you.
Bigot stands for British Invasion of German-occupied territory. So there's Monty, and there's Winnie, and they're looking at a map, as you can see, and they're planning D-Day.
Flannel over there.
D-Day.
OK, chaps.
Got your flannel?
Everybody want their flannel.
All flannelled up. Of course, Churchill was the only person who Monty would let smoke. Well, yes, it was so secret that anybody who knew any details of the Normandy landings, they were on the bigot list, and they were not allowed under any circumstances to leave the country. The only exception was Churchill himself, but no one on the bigot list was allowed out of Britain. And indeed, there was a rehearsal for the invasion in 1944, and 10 people on the bigot list were killed accidentally. And all plans for the invasion were put on hold until they could account for every single one of the bodies, just to be absolutely sure that the secret didn't get out.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not... I mean, yeah.
It's got out now, we know
It's got
now.
out now, yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't... It's not like it was unlikely it wasn't going to happen, was it? I mean, England's there, France is there...
I know, but we did everything we possibly could to persuade them that it was going to be further across towards Belgium, and indeed they withheld divisions further away from Normandy, where we landed.
Yeah.
Precisely because Germany fell for some of the spies, the Zigzag Man and Zabo, and that poor old chap who was a dead body, who was dressed as if he was an important officer and dropped in the sea outside Gibraltar with a chained briefcase next to him with plans in it. And they gave him a whole life. It was called The Man Who Never Was. It's a film of it.
Who actually was he?
He was probably a very sad, down-and-out Welsh chap who died very young and been found sleeping rough somewhere, and they dressed him up smartly to look like an officer.
You wouldn't have to do that now. You just get someone from Big Brother or something. You know? They'll volunteer for it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's a surprise.
Certainly the rest of us would.
Yes, surprises. You're going to be killed. You're going to be a fake general. Oh, empty.
No, it is. It's a good film. Have you ever seen it coming around on Channel
will.
4 one afternoon, sort of thing that pops up now and again?
Yes, I will.
It's funny to think when he was alive, he didn't know what a key part he'd play when he was dead.
I know. Operation Mincemeat, it was called.
Yeah. You can sign up to this service now when you're alive, which monitors your tweets and Facebook updates and things. And then when you're dead, it continues to tweet as you until an executor of the will who you've nominated tells it to stop. And while you're alive, you give it feedback as to how good it is. And I'm starting this business, and if anyone... No, it already exists.
Well, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
So you can set how long it goes on till?
Yeah, well, you give someone's name and you say, this person makes the decision as to when the virtual me dies. And then you give it feedback. So if it's slightly funnier than you are, you say, oh, it's quite good, but bring it down a notch.
So people don't... So somebody employs to be you, then, after your death? Or it's not just you going, dead, 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 still dead, dead. Yeah. And then your followers go up, oh, he's dead, dead, oh.
You know, with one's contact list, when people die, I never have the heart to cut them out. So I have friends and I have been dead 12, 15 years who are still in my address book because I just
Have they ever called?
They manifestly haven't called, and I haven't called them. But the act of just going delete
I know.
seems so.
I've done the
final.
same thing, but the good thing is, if someone dead does call you, you'll know it's them.
Yes.
You'll know not to
I know that I've been wrong all this time. I know not to answer. That's true. Well, of course, that number might be reused.
Oh, they do recycle them, yeah.
Yes.
So that it is
would be
possible that
that
one
would
day.
be the shock of one's life.
In fact, it's probable that one day that coincidence will happen. Someone who's got an old number of a dead person will accidentally ring a person who... God, I can't wait till that happens.
Time for a secret operation. What is the point of a tap in the ocean?
That's not a real picture.
It isn't a real picture, because in Britain you'd have 2 taps for no reason at all.
OK, I don't understand this. So you have a hot tap and you have a cold tap,
Yes.
right? Yes. Well, how's that? So you're trying to wash your hands, and what happens? You put it under the hot tap, you think, oh! And then you have the cold tap, oh! How is it the British haven't discovered there's a mixer tap? What is it?
We get.
Did you find that baffling when you arrived?
I still find it baffling.
Yeah,
I don't understand radiators. Why you want to heat an entire house with a small, hot metal plate in the corner? It doesn't work.
What would you do instead?
We have forced air in Canada, otherwise you freeze to death.
What do you have a what?
Forced air, just the
You know,
same as
a
aircon.
Forced air, aircon?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never heard the term. I'm 40, late 40s, and I don't... I genuinely didn't know how old I was. I'm not going to bother sitting here working it out, but I'm 50 soon, and I've never heard the term forced air. Well, not in that context.
I love the fact, Rod, that I'm asking you some quite complicated science questions and you don't know how old you are.
I'm about 49.
You're about 49. Have you just worked it out?
Yeah. I'm so used to saying I'm 50 in a few years. I'm so used to saying that for a moment it's
No,
something...
the thing is, though, it is quite good to know how old you are. And the producer has just told me in my ear, Rod, that you're 48.
Way to remember how old you are. Is there like a little, some kind of song I can sing or something?
I've never needed a mnemonic for my age. I'm sure I could invent one. I'm going to come back to what's the point? What's the point? That's the question.
I've written one for you.
Yeah.
I've written one for you.
OK, here we go.
How about, like, what year are we in today? When am I born? Just take that away. You don't have to be a whiz. That's how old Rod Gilbert is.
I just followed your poetic guidelines. I'm 48.
At the risk of repetition, what is the point of a tap?
Is it so that when sea levels rise, you can turn it off? I don't know.
So it's not actually a water tap.
It's not a tap.
Rather
tap.
So what else could you tap? What's another kind of tapping that people do when they're trying to listen in?
There's a shark behind you.
Yeah. Is it a wire when they put a wire, transatlantic radio communication wire?
It's Cold War. It's called Operation Ivy Bells, and it took place from 1971 to 1981, and it was the USA wiretapping a Russian underseas cable. That thing, they're moving it into position there, is a giant tape recorder, and they just put it onto the wire. So the sailors on a submarine, the USS Halibut, located a Soviet cable. Halibut. They located a Russian cable off the Russian east coast, and they moved a 6-metre-long recording pod around it to track the communications. The thing I really like about it, because we're talking some years ago now, the device had to be updated every month, and so divers had to leave a submarine once a month and change the tapes. But it was hugely successful. It ran for a decade until a National Security Agency employee of the United States sold the information to the KGB.
Spying was a lot more hassle back then when you've got to train a team of divers, get submarines. Yeah. Now you just need somebody's maiden name and their first pet's name and you're off.
Yeah.
If you're Russians, you just have to go and see Donald Trump and ask him.
What quite interesting object is at the very end of the Earth?
Telford Town Centre. Although I would argue about the interesting bit.
At the bottom of Patagonia?
It's right down there, yes. It's the southern pole of inaccessibility.
Is it the off switch?
To stop it spinning.
Plug hole.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's most unusual. It's a bust.
There's a bust.
There's a bust.
Well, worth going then.
In the sense not of a pair of breasts, but in the sense of a sort of head and shoulders and front bit of a human being.
No, we didn't really think there was a big pair of tits.
It's of a living 20th century person, now dead.
A man.
Yeah.
Stalin.
Oh, the one before.
Lenin.
Vladimir Ilyich Lenin is there, right in the middle.
My
It's just
word.
bizarre. This southern pole of inaccessibility is more remote and hard to reach than the geographical South Pole. And in this very year, the destination was reached by a team of 4 Britons called Team N2I. Rory Sweet, Rupert Longston, Henry Cookson and Paul Landry. And we have one of this expedition in the audience. Mr...
Is it Lenin?
No. Mr. Rupert Longston is here. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that bizarre? Phenomenal. Rupert, how far did you actually have to travel? Because there was no mechanical power, was it?
No mechanical power. We travelled 1,100 miles in total. Some of it was cross-country skiing and then kite skiing.
Was it cold?
When that picture was taken, I think it was minus 60 degrees Celsius.
What do you eat?
Food was fairly repetitive. It was chocolate, cheese, salami, pasta, lots of it. And one day towards the end, when we'd been eating the same thing for about 40 days, we played laxative roulette. And with one person had laxatives in their food, we didn't know who.
Well, I bet you did.
Not straight away. The consequences were quite obvious after a while.
Does it freeze as it comes
out?
Does it into a shard of shit?
When did the Russians put that there?
1958.
Good Lord. Rupert Longston, congratulations on doing an extraordinary first and being very, very foolhardy and very brave and very brilliant.
Clearly not an extraordinary first. There was a statue there when they
No,
arrived.
They went under their own power. No one had ever done that before. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Rupert. Thank you. That's amazing.
I like the idea of that, though, the idea of going and doing that with no mechanical device whatsoever. His moon mission's going to be amazing. You'd be a man up a ladder going, oh, this is madness.
How would you use a Monopoly set to escape from a prison camp?
I could see how you might use a buckaroo.
Just fly out over the fence.
I mean, you'd probably just keep ending up on the barbed wire. Again, try it with the bucket.
Is it the covering up the hole with it?
Well...
Like in Shawshank?
No, there was a man whose nickname was Clutty Hutton, who in Britain bought up lots of Monopoly boards and turned them into escape kits that he then set up through MI9 with these pretend charities.
So that you'd get a get-out-of-jail-free card. That's a very good idea.
It was. No, what was brilliant
Cunning
was
the secret
that hidden in the Monopoly board were incredibly useful things.
Like a small dog, tiny hat, and a little ship.
There would be real money interspersed with the Monopoly money. There would be maps on silk, because they obviously tried it on paper. It's too bulky and rustly, but on silk, on parachute silk, you get an enormous amount of detail and tiny. That's an example of his earlier work, putting a compass in a military tunic button. The Germans got wise to this. They'd unscrew them, eat the buttons, and they'd see it. So then they reversed the thread. So when the Germans unscrewed it, they in fact tightened the button. Then they got wise to that. So then he used razor blades, which were magnetised at one end, so that when they were attached to something metal, they would spin round with the G of Gillette would point north, which was very good. So they were well disguised.
They said, now look, we put the normal thread on.
Yeah.
Old Kraut, he's unscrewing it. Then what we've done is we've put it the other way. So when he's unscrewing it, he's actually tightening it.
That's right.
Now we've gone a step further. We've done one here. You can't get the top off.
Isn't there a flaw in that, sir?
Don't complicate it. Don't complicate it, Perkins. No one's going to see this bloody compass, that's for sure. Give it a try. You won't get it off.
Oh, very good, sir.
In many ways, it's become what I call a button.
If I was the German camp commandant, I'd have made them all wear duffel coats.
If it was me, if I was in charge, I would have started shipping out giant Jengas.
Would you?
Well, then you just build them up. You know the Jengas you get in pub gardens?
Yes,
Just massive ones, just hop over the fence.
Brilliant. If only you'd been in charge then.
Or snakes and ladders, but with actual ladders.
Yes.
And real snakes to scare the Germans.
Scare the Germans.
Good British snakes who didn't like the look of a German soldier and would go up to them and go...
What about if they gave them toy tanks, but really big ones? And they could just turn around and go, take this, Jerry.
Who has the least use for Jeremy Clarkson? What two things come to mind when we think of Jeremy?
Top Gear and Brunel.
Cars and television is the key.
So it's a place that's got no...
A place that has almost no cars and no television would have very little use. Yes. Sark. Sark, you're quite right about traffic there, but it does have a lot of television. I mean, it has as much television as any other place.
Is it the Channel Island area?
It's not the Channel Islands, it's a lot further away. Yes,
Bhutan.
Bhutan is the right answer. Well done. It is the kingdom. You've certainly got a point there.
Except... they have got television.
In 1999?
Yeah. It's where they're doing all the television surveys to find out, has television actually had an effect? It's completely wrecked the place. It's absolutely ruined it. It's gone from people going all day to just sitting around stabbing one another, wearing perfume and drinking Coca-Cola and wanting to be American.
And parking fees have now been introduced as well.
In
for the first
Bhutan?
time. It has no traffic lights in the whole of the kingdom.
Where is it?
It's sort of between China and India in the Himalayas.
India has no speed limits.
India has no speed limits.
And every car in India, within 5 years of it being bought, will be involved in a fatal road accident.
The UK, on the other hand, has the highest number of car thefts in the world.
My motorbike was stolen 2 weeks ago.
Bummer.
It's a black Suzuki DR60 N441 YKP.
You should do the whole police press conference bit and say, now this bike thief knows who he is.
I've got an American cousin who's a doctor, and he was visiting me in London at the time when I used to ride a motorbike, and he didn't know this, and we were meeting in a restaurant. He saw me checking in my skid lid, as we biker boys call them.
Helmet,
he said, "Oh, I didn't know you rode a bike." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, do you know what we call bike riders at the the trauma department of the Roosevelt Hospital?" I said, "No." He said, "Donors." And that was one thing. And then, literally 2 days later, a friend of mine was talking about her aunt who was at Moorfields Eye Hospital. And she was going to have a cataract operation or a corneal graft or one of those sort of things. And the chap came in, the consultant, and said, "No, Mrs. Alton," he said, "I'm sure you've heard about it. We're going to cut out that nasty old lens, a cloudy old lens. We're going to sew in a nice, bright, fresh new one. It's a very simple operation. It only takes a few hours and you'll be out and you'll be seeing wonderfully." He said, "The only trouble is, I'm afraid, we don't have any donor eyes in at the moment." But he looked to the window and said, "But it's raining, so it shouldn't be too long." He meant it. Most people in Bhutan live more than a day's walk from a road. It's a very rural country indeed. Only 0.01% of the country are on the internet, for heaven's sake.
No, but if you got that from the internet, it'll be wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every single one of the 247 billion facts on the internet is wrong.
A question for you, Alan. We're both actors. Why are we so grotesquely overpaid?
Market forces. We're not in charge of the distribution of wealth.
Any excuse we can think of. Well, what profession within the film industry might think that they're responsible entirely for the way an actor conveys...
Screenwriters?
The screenwriter certainly has a lot, as far as the story is concerned, but they can't control, as it were, what an audience reads into an actor's eyes.
So the
cameraman? The editor.
In a way, the editor, yeah. And in 1919, when cinema was being born, there was a filmmaker called Lev Kuleshov, and he proposed putting together a film in which you saw an actor looking at things, and you noticed that the audience read into the actor different emotions according to what they're looking at.
So it's the idea that they're looking, you know, we think, oh, they're looking melancholy because they're looking at something.
Or they're looking hungry
because they're looking hungry. Yeah,
exactly.
But the actor's actually not changed.
It's exactly the same shot as the actor. And this
That's the trick of acting. All actors know that.
Yes, is not to act.
If in doubt, don't do anything at all.
And directors will tell you. Milos Forman famously shouts, "Stop acting! Somebody is acting here!"
There's a famous Bogart one, and at the end he looks down on some carnage, and everyone was very impressed by the emotions he portrayed. But the shot had been done much later, and the camera went down low, stood up on a balcony, and the director said, "Look bored."
Yes. And it works like that.
They cut it in.
It's extraordinary how that is. It's the effect, it's the timing of the story, it's what the actor seems to be looking at, and it's the audience that does the work. They read the emotion into the face. Oh, that's... We've actually cut our own together. So you can see here, what's this emotion?
Confusion.
Oh, he's looking hard at something. Can you believe it's true? Oh, no. Arsenal have lost again. What a beautiful bike.
There you are.
Proof positive as if it were needed. Anyway, thanks to the Kuleshov effect, good acting, maybe just good. Who first cracked the Enigma code?
Yes. Was it the Poles?
Top man! Absolutely right. You're a good soul. Yep. There's a general feeling that we did all the work. But in fact, it was a Pole in 1932, as early as that, who first cracked how an Enigma machine worked. But in the late 1930s, the Germans changed the way they worked, so that I think there was something like 364 billion possible settings each day to the daily code. Now, that's not something you could guess. But the first one to crack it in the beginning to see how it worked was a young Polish mathematician called Marian Rejewski. And if you ever go to Bletchley Park, and I do urge you to do so, there is a splendid statue to him, and...
Have they got a good shop there?
They have a very nice shop. They also have a museum of computing, which I know would excite you almost...
Oh, indeed.
Indeed, I can...
Already moist.
I mean, it is well established. The work on Enigma did do a great deal to hasten the end of the war. Eisenhower estimated that it shortened the war by 2 years, which is hundreds of thousands of lives. So it was an extraordinarily important thing that these boffins got together. But how do you think they were first brought together at Bletchley Park? What was the first move the government made to assemble the boffins?
Singles club.
It was almost that. It was a telegraph crossword competition. Especially fiendish telegraph crossword. And the winners were sent letters saying, "You might be our kind of chap." But anyway, they then soon became aware that having people who knew that cart horse was an anagram of orchestra was not going to win them the war. They needed really great mathematical minds.
It's when the world changed, isn't it?
It's when the world changed.
It'll be fascinating conundrums that the Nazis will set us.
But,
we'll have to find clues and follow them. No, you just need a supercomputer.
But fortunately, there was a man ready for it. It just happened to be that history had thrown up a quite brilliant mathematician called Alan Turing, who was at Cambridge at the time. There he is. He's considered the father of computing, one of the truly great men of his time. And you may remember Gordon Brown making an impassioned but far too late apology on behalf of the British government for his terrible death. He was persecuted for his homosexuality and chemically castrated and then committed suicide by eating a poisoned apple. And there are many to this day who believe that Apple computers named their apple with the bite out of it in honour of Alan Turing, the father of computing. And I was in a position to ask one of the founders, Steve Jobs, and he said it isn't true, but God, we wish it were. It's just a coincidence, but they're very proud that people think it might be, because he was a simply extraordinary man. But the real fiendish thing was not Enigma, it was called Lorentz. And for Lorentz was used between German High Command and Hitler himself, basically. And Lorentz was unbelievably difficult. And for that, Turing and his team built what really was the world's first computer. It was called Colossus. And it was way ahead of its time. It was quite extraordinary.
It was all a complete sort of national secret until very recently, wasn't it? Or quite recently.
Absolutely. There is Bletchley Park.
And it is open to the public. I'm a big advocate for it, so I make no apology for banging its drum. It's a great place.
It's an interesting choice that we took as a nation, though, you know, during the Second World War, which was an expensive experience for us and left us bankrupt. But out of it, we had basically invented the computer, and we decided to make it a secret.
Yes.
Rather than, in any sense, attempting to monetize it.
Actually, we gave the secret of Colossus to the CIA.
Oh, superb.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I know.
That's an excellent move.
It was.
No one will be needing that.
But there's a great memo, because there are a lot of people in the British government who thought, what are these people in faintly damp tweed with pipes and glasses doing, writing on bits of paper here? And there's quite a big budget. I mean, what are they doing? And Churchill had a look round, and the fellow explained to him what they were doing, and then there's a very famous memo in Churchill's hand that just says, give them what they want. It's fantastic, that, isn't it?
What, can I just ask, and you may not be able to answer this, but what was the nature of the Enigma code? Was it mathematical or was
Yes. I mean, don't ask me to give you the precise details. I'm really no expert. But it was a purely physical, mechanical device, but it had so many different rotors that had so many different angles and positions that there were hundreds of billions of permutations. It was our job was to intercept or work out what the code word of the day was, and then we could translate the messages. It was all very odd. But they were very lazy. It relied on Germans making mistakes by using the names of their dogs and things. So a lot of intelligence was gathered about the people in naval intelligence in particular, about what their dogs, their girlfriends, their addresses and things like that, because it's a bit like passwords, you know.
I'm beginning to think that people will be able to hack into my John Lewis account now.
Not named after your
It's
dog,
ironic.
surely.
They invented a computer and finished the war early, but the cyber war being waged by China will be the death of all of us.
Yeah, there is some... You know, the worry about it is... I mean, I was speaking to a man at Los Alamos, which is where they developed the nuclear bomb, and obviously the science now goes in other directions. They said they had something like 1 million attacks an hour on their sort of cyber front-end security. And I said, well, hackers? And they said, no, nations. Well, let's be honest, one nation. And I was interviewing him on camera, and I said, would it rhyme with Biner? And he said it might well do. And I said, that's how many times they're battering on the doors of your security.
Well, they
said,
must do. They've got thousands of computers.
Absolutely, they're just slave...
trying to work it out
I know.
24 hours a day.
And presumably we're attempting in our own befuddled way to do the same.
If we've got a ZX80 on it, 24.
Except when Wimbledon's on.
Yeah, we've got a crow that can get a tiny bucket out of a Perspex tube. Take that, China.
If I could be serious for a moment, more than 100 million people were killed in wars during the 20th century, and the total number of people ever killed by wars could be as many as 1 billion. Einstein described war as a cloak that covers acts of murder, and Antoine de Saint-Exupéry called it a disease like typhus. With all that in mind, here is my question to you. Why did Hitler have such a silly moustache?
Thank God for that. I thought I was on the wrong show for a minute. Well, very serious.
I'm sure you'd agree with my description of war there, wouldn't you?
I would absolutely. This is a difficult show for me to be on because I'm a Quaker pacifist. So I'm not an ideal person.
Were you born a Quaker?
No, I wasn't. I was a Quaker by convincement, as they call it.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And because my family, the Fry family, were very early Quakers.
Of course they
all
were.
the way.
Of course they were.
It's a very admirable thing, and the pacifism is taken very seriously, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lovely thing until Hitler comes along, and then it's not much use.
Well, if we'd have done something about it before Hitler came along, then maybe it would
saved his moustache.
And I think the reason he had that moustache is he was probably a fan of Oliver Hardy.
Ah, well, it's certainly true that they were popular in the 20s and increasingly in the 30s. Well, Charlie Chaplin, of course, is best known. But supposedly Hitler changed from what was a relatively bushy moustache. You may have seen a famous photograph of him as a Gefreiter, a corporal in the First World War. There he is on the left. But there are a couple of stories. No one's quite sure which is true. There was a fellow who served with him, Alexander Moritz Fry, great-uncle Alexander. He was in the same regiment in the First World War as Hitler, and he said that Hitler trimmed it into the familiar toothbrush in order to fit into the gas mask properly.
Oh.
Fry's account is controversial, apparently. He went on to become a satirist and fantasy novelist, starting a family tradition.
Here's the point about Hitler. He's judged very harshly by history, but he did kill Hitler.
I can't take that away from you, Jimmy.
Credit
It's a
when
true
credit
fact.
is due.
That's true. Some historians believe that Hitler only adopted the tash in 1919, and his sister-in-law, who lived in Liverpool, she had one as well. She married one. Do you know what her name was? Muriel. Almost, as it were.
Gauss Adolf.
Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler.
Yeah, that was her name. Bridget Hitler.
Bridget Hitler?
Yeah. Yes, she was married to Alois Jr., who was Hitler's half-brother. And they had a son, William Patrick Hitler.
Billy Hitler.
William Patrick Hitler went to America and won a Purple Heart in the Navy.
Changed his name, I presume.
Eventually to Stuart Houston, I think. And he claimed he wanted to forget anything to do with his uncle, but he named his first son Alexander Adolf Stuart Houston. Anyway, yes, Bridget, in her memoir, said that he came to visit Liverpool and that she told him that he should trim the ends of his moustache to make it less bushy. But, as she put it, as in most things, he went too far. But in his place, by some terrible, terrible concatenation of circumstances, both my co-pilot and I on this flight were suddenly taken ill. How would you land this plane?
Can't they just land themselves on an instruments landing?
Can't you? I'd stop reading the Kindle on the steering wheel. And
That would be a wise start, yes.
Don't you radio... There's the co-pilot slumped, normally.
Yes.
In these situations.
Yeah, someone talks you in.
And somebody talks you in?
That's what happens in the movies, definitely, isn't it?
Like Robert Duvall probably would be good.
Yes.
That's who I'd ring.
Or Lloyd Bridges, in the case of Airplane, the movie.
Perfect choice.
Yeah.
Presumably there are legal problems with someone talking you down, though, because you could then subsequently sue if it was interpreted by your relatives that you were given bad advice. So probably these days the air traffic controller would refuse to give advice and would say, "I'm sorry, we're not covered for my saying."
That's right. You'd have to sign a waiver and sort of text it to them, and then they would insurance would cover you to be talked down.
It is a minefield. Extraordinarily and happily, it has never occurred in commercial airline travel history that someone has been, as it were, oh gosh, can anyone fly this plane because the pilot and co-pilot are ill or dead. It's never actually happened, but it would be fraught with difficulty. They have tried various simulations. For example, those with American civil private pilot licenses in America who can fly light planes were invited onto simulators of big jets. Yeah. And one of them couldn't even operate the seat that moved him towards the control. Another one turned the radio off. Another one turned off the autopilot and instantly crashed the plane. So the fact is, it's incredibly difficult.
Stephen, am I allowed to say that in your uniform how incredibly unlike a pilot you look?
So what do I look like instead? Be brutal, be frank.
No, I think you'd be the chap who calls himself the bursar. Who comes round, he's got a big leather wallet and takes money for duty-free.
Yeah, calls himself the
Yeah.
bursar.
Yes.
He calls himself the bursar?
Yes, I think he does, yeah.
Or the purser?
The purser.
The bursar is like the one that does the money for a...
Public school.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
What kind of planes are you flying on?
Yeah.
Yes, the bursar will be collecting money for the end of term jamboree.
Here on a Charterhouse Air.
Yeah.
The bursar with the trolley, and then with the drinks, the groundsman.
Anyway, the fact is it's fraught with difficulty. The first problem you would have is simply getting into the cockpit, because since 9/11, of course, cockpits are locked. And if the pilot and the co-pilot were truly too ill to be able to fly, they may well be too ill even to let you in to the cockpit. But
do they have a secret knock? When they go and give them their lunch, though, surely they have to get in.
Yes.
So they must have a coded knock or something, like, it's me. I've got your lunch. Something like that, and they go, oh, must be the lunch.
It must be. It must be Ginger with the lunch. The lunch is. Now, why do I say lunch is?
Because there's more than one.
But why is there more? You are accruing points at a fantastic rate.
God, I tell you what.
Yes, there are more than one. But why would there be more than one lunch? Why would
they have to eat different meals.
Yes, the pilot and the co-pilot must eat different meals.
Oh, in case one of them gets botulism.
Exactly, so that if one is by accident poisoned or whatever. And in the case of extra long-haul flights, there are 3 pilots, not 2.
So you can't get into the cockpit. It's very, very dangerous. Never been done.
Yeah,
So...
and if it was on autopilot, you'd be able, obviously, to fly level and it would continue. But once you got into the landing situation, yes, the kind of film scenario would take over, whereby you would be told how to operate the flaps and at what speed. But there are so many variables in terms of glide path and vertical and horizontal axes and so on. It really is extraordinarily difficult. There is an auto-land system.
There's no way of flying it remotely, then, from the ground? Like with just somebody with a Wii or something, you know?
I don't know. Maybe one day.
Someone comes in the room.
What? Why?
It's a horrifying thought, but fortunately, as I say, it never has yet happened in major commercial
What
air
conclusion did the great biologist Stephen Jay Gould draw from a lifetime study of fish?
Oh.
Yeah.
They haven't got any legs. Is that his lifetime study?
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't his lifetime study of a fish.
Yeah. After a while, they smell.
He's a bit thick, and he just stared at me, and they haven't got any legs.
Starfish don't have brains. It's the kind of Louis Walsh of the aquatic world. They really don't have brains, they're starfish.
And they're not really fish, are they, starfish, to be honest?
Well, the word fish is in there, which kind of qualifies them, I think.
Well, is a starfish a fish? Is a jellyfish a fish?
Well, yeah,
cuttlefish a fish?
Yes,
is a
horse. But the starfish...
crayfish is a lobster.
There's a division, isn't there, in the world, whether it should be down to sort of experts in biology, whether things are fish, or whether it should be down to menus.
Yes.
I think, for example, a crayfish comes under fish in a menu.
He looks like he's reading the sell-by date on that.
He does, doesn't he? Stephen Jay Gould was very great. He's dead now. He's very great. He won a Nobel Prize. He was a paleontologist and an extraordinary biologist. And he came to a conclusion which is...
They can feel no love.
No, that they... that there is no such thing as a fish. A fish has no biological meaning. There is just...
Well, I'm absolutely right. Go with menus.
On a menu it does. But in a menu, a fish is not the same as shellfish or seafood, is it?
It often comes in the same bit and separate from pudding.
Things that live in the sea.
Fish and pudding are different.
Yeah. How can something not be something? Something can't be not something, can it? But if you've created a something, then something has to be that something, otherwise you haven't created a something. So it has to be a fish if there is the idea of a fish in the first place.
I swear there's a philosophy somewhere.
Slow down, Plato.
There's some sort of ontological argument going there, and of course, to us, that we use the word fish. But biologically speaking, a salmon is more related to, say, a camel than it is to a hagfish. Like, there are lots of things that fly, like a bumblebee flies, a vulture flies, and there are flying lizards. They're not all birds.
No.
But we call things that swim in the sea fish, and actually, biologically, evolutionarily, they have absolutely nothing to do with each other at all. So, after a lifetime study of fish, biologist Stephen Jay Gould concluded that there's no such thing as a fish. Have you read 1984? Hands up if you read 1984. Wow, that's pretty good. How many? Yeah. The fact is, research on several occasions show that at least a quarter of the people who claim to have read 1984 are lying. So I'm afraid we have to take points away from you. Yeah. Can you put your hand up if you said you'd read it, but actually secretly you haven't?
Oh, come on.
Come on. You look very secret. Yes. The honest man in the back has earned some more... the audience. I have to confess here, I studied English at university. I haven't read it.
I should hope not. What kind of English degree would include something written as late as 1940?
Well, that's true. Yes, we read things written in 1370. But I kind of felt I didn't need to, which is an appalling thing to say.
Oh, it's terribly good, Stephen.
Well, I kind of... I
know
know
all the TV shows named after it.
Two, at least. Room 101 and Big Brother.
Well, that's room mine.
Oh, sorry! I know how it opens. It opens with the clock striking 13. I know the character's
really
called
good,
Winston.
and they made a film of it with John Hurt.
Yeah.
It's hard to bother, isn't it, when there's a great film of a book? I was the same with A Muppet Christmas Carol. I feel it's been done. I know what the turkey does in the story. Why read it?
It is a masterpiece of a film, it has to be said.
I lie a lot to impress people. And I'll be honest now, I have never read The Hungry Caterpillar. It gets so close to the end, and I get too emotional. I'm like, he's gonna die. He's overfed himself. I can't do it, and I stop. So I just pretend that I've read it.
No, he becomes a butterfly.
Is he carries himself?
Spoiler!
sorry, that was wrong of me. Oh. I knew someone who gave away the end of Psycho. It's nearly as serious as that.
Oh,
There are some books that you don't need to bother reading, like good books that you don't need to bother reading. Like, it's controversial to say it, but I don't think Harry Potter is worth reading. It is so expertly narrated on the audiobook. After I listened to the Harry Potter books, with you narrating them, everything in my life is narrated by Stephen Fry. All my thoughts, my internal monologue is now Stephen Fry's voice. Even the dirty thoughts are Stephen's voice. No, because it makes it acceptable. I had a sexual thought the other day, I put my hand in the air, I had a sexual thought about Camilla Parker Bowles. It didn't seem weird because Stephen was saying it to me.
What kind of animal can you eat without killing it? Rich.
Crabs, unintentionally. In the South.
Yeah?
In the deep South, in the bayou. On the bayou. On the bayou. Yeah, yeah. Freshwater mussels, they just pick them right out of the water, and they'll have these tiny pink crabs crawling on them, and they're considered a delicacy. And they're alive. They're alive when you swallow them.
These are things you can eat fully, an animal food stuff, but you don't kill the animal.
So something that sort of comes through like sweet corn, except it's still running around.
Oh!
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying it passes through the entire digestive system.
Right,
no.
oh, right.
No.
But it stays in you and sets up a community.
Whatever they put in Yakult. Well, they which on about that, don't they?
Yes, bifidus digestivum.
How?
Or L. Casei
How stupid do they think we are?
David, you know these things. I'm so
impressed.
impressed.
I spend a lot of time watching television, and listening to the new made-up science is very entertaining.
I love the made-up science where they go, do you want to buy a tiny pot of off milk?
Yes! And they say it's always such a good deal. Just try it for 9 weeks. And then if you don't feel better, then give up. Because actually, if everyone tries it for 9 weeks, we're in the money.
No, because, I mean, actually, in a sense, you're probably right about bacteria, which would possibly pass through us and all the way and not be killed. But this is actually a delicacy. I'm inclined to give the point to Rich, because he's sort of accidentally right, only he's sort of wrong as well.
It's not a story of my life.
It's one of the most popular foods, almost a national dish in some ways, of Florida.
Tapeworm.
Not tapeworm. No, it's a type of crab. It's a stone crab.
Oh, right.
Stone crab claws are very popular. There is a stone crab, and the fishermen catch the crab, they snap off the claws and throw the crab back in, and it takes about a year for its claws to grow back. But it is considered a great delicacy, usually served with a sort of butter and mustard sauce, very popular indeed in restaurants up and down America, but particularly, as I say, in Florida.
What does it do for a year, then, armless down, wandering about?
I mean, it's up to himself.
So the crab is dismayed when it loses its claws, thinking, now I can't get any work done. All that stuff, I'm trying to rearrange the seabed. It'll be a year before I can do any of that. I'm just going to have to lay up. It's almost like they're sort of fruit-bearing animals, aren't they?
That's pretty similar to that, exactly. Like an apple tree has its apples taken off, but the next year it grows more apples.
So maybe they're trees. They're just seafoody trees.
Yeah,
they can walk around.
Same DNA.
You could have given me as an answer as well. There are certain tribesmen in the Masai Mara in northern Tanzania and Kenya who will drink the blood of cattle. You know, not kill them, but sort of slit the throat a bit and drink the blood, mix it with milk, actually. And then they bind up the wound again, and so they don't kill the cow. But that practice is dying out a bit.
They mix it with milk, so they think that cattle have 2 drinks. You can have one or the other, or a mixture of the 2. Fantastic, these 2-drink animals.
Anyway, stone crabs it is. They're returned to the sea alive, and their claws have been taken off. Over the next year, they grow a replacement, although it's never quite as good as the first one.
What is the most mysterious thing you do in bed?
You regrow, you regenerate your body parts, don't you?
OK,
At night. That's what I call it, anyway. What are you doing in there? I'm regenerating!
Do you mean that there are bits that are broken? You mend them, is that what you mean?
Don't you grow a new liver every 7 years or something? There's no bit of you that is actually the age that you are.
No, I think it's every 10 years you're a totally new person.
You're totally new, bones,
yes,
everything.
No, you don't grow gums back. Gums recede and they don't come back.
You can't go, oh, I think I'm going to grow my gums long this year.
It's probably quite good that the gums don't keep growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
Imagine having to get them trimmed. That's going to be an extremely bloody...
What do you do for a living? I'm a gum dresser.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to get head to toe in plastic. It's like CSI. When someone comes in for a long overdue gum trimming.
You have to show them the back of their gums.
Yeah.
So the most thing that we do in bed, all of us...
Dreaming.
Breathing.
It's sleeping. We have no idea. It is the most mysterious thing that we do in bed because we just don't know why we do it. Why would you end the day unconscious and basically paralysed and leave yourself available to attack by predators unless there is some fantastic evolutionary benefit that outweighs the risk? And the fact is, we just don't know. People have thought it was to do with energy conservation.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous because you actually don't save much energy.
Really?
No, not when you sleep, no.
How many days can you go without sleep for before you die?
If you stay awake for 17 hours, it's the same as having 2 glasses of wine in terms of how it would affect your performance.
Red wine or white wine? Because if it's white wine, then I'll just start crying.
Oh, would you? Oh, you're bad drunk.
Yeah, I'd never once drunk more than 2 glasses of white wine and not use the phrase, why don't you just dump me, Ben?
Even to people who you're not in a relationship with.
No, you save about 110 calories each night, so a 2-finger Kit Kat is 107. It's not a lot, is it?
But that's the only energy saving.
That's the only energy saving.
So when you wake up in the morning, you can have a 2-fingered Kit Kat?
Help yourself.
Gratis.
Yeah, it totally wipes it all out, frankly.
It's a classy breakfast.
Morning, everyone.
So the theory that I like best, there have been some scientists at the University of Rochester Medical Center in New York, and they think it's when our brains are cleaned. There's a professor, Maiken Nithergork, and she says you can think of it like having a house party. You can either entertain the guests or clean up the house, but you can't really do both at the same time. That's the theory. But how much you sleep depends on your own circadian rhythm. So I didn't sleep very much. Anybody here a good sleeper?
I've got a 5-month-old baby, so I only sleep in 1.5-hour chunks at the moment.
So have you just come for a break just tonight?
This is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Are you a good sleeper now? Do you sleep well?
Yeah, I can sleep a lot, yeah.
Apparently what you should do to find out how much you need to sleep is you should spend a week not having an alarm clock at all, and you should let your body just wake up when it needs to and log how many hours, and if you need 6 hours and you need to get up at 7 a.m, then you know what time you've got to go to bed.
But Sandy, you need a wee at 5.
Yes.
No matter what.
Yeah, it's very annoying. Yeah. And it's not like you particularly have that much wee to do.
You get there and you think, why have you woken me up for that? I would rather have just left that in the bed. We could have just done it in the morning.
Also, sometimes, in the middle of the night you can start thinking about something stressful or get frightened by noises in the house.
There are so many great men short.
Are they really?
David, you've hit the nail on the head. Rem acutetigisti, as they would say in Latin.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
It means nice one, son.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. In fact, Napoleon
was short, wasn't he?
No, he was above average height.
Everyone was short in those days.
Wasn't he?
Well,
he was 5'6", which was taller than
he was
is
5'7",
now.
actually.
Yeah.
Average height was about 5'6"-ish.
So it's just the British who decided he was short, put him down a bit.
Yes, it was particularly a cartoonist called Gilray. When we were at war with Napoleon, there was a famous one of George III with a little Napoleon based on Gulliver's Travels, like that. And he's actually saying, I cannot but conclude you to be one of the most pernicious little odious reptiles that nature ever suffered to crawl upon the surface of the earth.
It's a snappy.
It's a snappy one. He was 3 inches taller than Nelson, for example. Nelson was 3 inches shorter than Napoleon. It's certainly true that...
Nelson was 5'4"?
Yeah.
Like Danny DeVito?
He was very, short chap.
No wonder they put him on such a big
so
column.
Is that kind of...
Yes, he's tall in Trafalgar Square.
Is that short man syndrome a kind of retrospective thing, then, that we've kind of invented more recently and then just gone back and said they're all short?
Yeah. Some of them were short, though. There's no question. I mean, Stalin was surprisingly short. He was only 5'5". Mussolini was 5'6". Franco was 5'4".
5'4"?
Yeah.
They are all short, Steve.
Well, no. Hit the 5'8". Idi Amin was 6'4".
Yeah, big
That's
fella.
my height. Fidel Castro, 6'1". Mao was 5'9", which is rather tall for a Chinese person. So...
But mostly they're not judged on their height, are they?
No, they're not. They're not. But all I'm...
We'll let that go.
Yeah. All I'm saying, you know, there seems to be historically no evidence that short people are more power-hungry, more tyrannical than people of average or tall stature.
Because you know how it came about, though, because it's just that one... It's probably the one thing that short people have got to cling on to. One day, they might be a dictator. Well, and we've just taken that away from them.
All this,
one little hope.
All this not being able to reach things from shells, one day will be made up for when I kill millions of people. And I can stand on their bodies.
Yeah.
Reach the jam.
Everybody knows somebody short in their life who's been particularly angry and abused his position of authority, and then you decide he's a bit like Hitler.
That's the point. You notice when a short man has a tantrum and says, oh, short man, Napoleon complex.
Tall man has a tantrum, you just leg it.
Exactly. I have to say I'm rather shocked by this. Heightism does exist. Short people are paid less on average than tall people. The disparity is comparable in magnitude to race and gender. A survey of Fortune 500 companies...
They should rise up.
Yeah. The chief executive officers of Fortune 500 companies, 90% are above average height, which is astounding, really. And 30% of those are over 6'2". You know, the tallest 4%.
Every now and again, a little short fella breaks through.
Yeah. Oh, stop.
Escapes, gets away.
Yeah, yeah. But it is rather shocking that there is this disparity. And, of course, we always notice the powerful, short, rich man with a young, tall wife is...
Billionaire Bernie
She's
Ecclestone.
actually... I've seen her with him. She's actually much taller than that. Above him.
Yeah, she's bending her knee there.
Yeah. I mean, he has to jump up to slap her on the bum. He can run through her legs.
And who's the couple on the left?
That's Carla Bruni and
Sarkozy. But at least the women have both got handbags that their husbands can fit in, which
No, there isn't really any evidence that dictators are shorter than the rest of us. Now, which popular game traditionally ends with all the players being thrown into a lake of fiery sulphur?
Well, I hope it's show jumping. I hate show jumping. Oh, God. I'd have one of those after every jump.
Before and after every jump.
It's not show jumping, though. It would certainly liven it up.
It sounds biblical.
I don't think it's the humans, though, it's pieces. Wouldn't it be pieces?
Well, I'll tell you that it's a game that went dramatically out of fashion in 1972. Early 72, it was more popular than Monopoly. But by the end of 72, it had almost completely gone out of fashion because of a film.
Mousetrap. Mousetrap.
No, there is no film of
Because of a
Mousetrap.
film. Is it Drafts? Remember that film? Drafts. The truth about drafts.
No.
Drafts makes you go bald. Don't play drafts.
The film is not a game, there's a game in it. This game is played in it, and it's scary.
Oh, is it a séance?
Yeah, it is a séance using a Ouija board.
OK. Right.
And what film has there a Ouija board?
The
Exorcist is the right answer. One of the truly great films of the 20th century.
Is a Ouija board really a game? I don't remember ever seeing Ouija board scenes in a film and at the end going, right, who won?
Not dead. Well, the odd thing about Ouija, it was a board, it still belongs to Parker Brothers.
It's out.
Yeah. Ouija is a proprietary name, it's a trademark.
Is it we-ya?
Interesting point. That is some people's theory of the name of it is, yes, two words for yes, we, the French, and ya, the German, but no one's quite sure about where the name came from, except that it's a game that was invented. The board was invented and it was sold and people played it. I mean, it's weird to say that, but they enjoyed the fact that it nearly always works in as much as, you know, people spell out words and they don't quite know how they're doing it. It's clearly not dead people.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was not originally supposed to be dead people. It was supposed to be that you contacted yourselves, a part of yourselves that automatically wrote. It was not about seances.
Dead people just joined in.
All the games
us. This is the one for us.
Even when recently asked, only a third of the people who still use Ouija boards say they do it to contact dead people. And in the First World War, it was used to contact your troops abroad, supposedly.
So, hold on. Are some dead people trying to communicate with the living through Monopoly?
Yeah. There was a court case in the 90s, I'm sorry to say, in Britain, a murder case, quite an important one, and the jury had to be dismissed because in their hotel overnight they used a Ouija board to try and contact the murdered person. And apparently the murdered person said, the guy in the dock is guilty, convict him. And said, but the judge heard about it and dismissed the jury, quite rightly, you may say. But the awful thing was, if they'd done it in the jury room, the judge couldn't have dismissed them. Because the judge has no right in law to know what goes on in a jury room. The deliberations must be private.
Unless he's dead.
Ah, yeah, that's really complicated.
Was the guy guilty?
Unfortunately, he was retried and found guilty, which sort of is really irritating. So maybe the ghost of the murdered person did.
Where's the competitive element?
Suppose you just have a go.
Yeah.
Who are you trying to contact? Right, it's your turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you contact two dead people and then they box.
And then they tell you how it went. Ghost boxing.
Ghost boxing? Like Sky Sports do! Live ghost boxing from Auntie Vera's parlour.
That's it, people in sheets.
Yeah. The headless man, he's already down.
It's just going like that. It's trying to punch you.
Do you know there's an Elvis...
Yeah. There we go. Go on. Hit me. Hit me.
There's an Elvis seance website.
Of course there is. I bet there's more than one of those.
Yeah. Where you contact Elvis.
Online?
But it cautions, if you wish to repeat this experiment, please be considerate. Many people may wish to contact Elvis, and we're sure he's quite busy. Please treat this information...
For eternity.
Yes, please treat this information the same as you would if he were alive and you had his email address, with respect. It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? A sort of posthumous Twitter and things like that. That would be hell, I have to say.
You just thought of that?
Yeah.
You're in it up to your neck.
Oh, God. Horrifying. But the reference in the Bible to the fiery lake or whatever is from Revelations, where it does say those who practice the magic arts will be cast into burning sulphur. So,
How about balloon animals?
Ooh, the punishment for people who do balloon animals is not specified in Revelation.
You're off.
I think it's loneliness, the punishment for them.
Yeah.
I think it's long nights, sitting alone.
So, yeah, in my youth, games which conjured up the spirits of the dead were a popular gift for children. It's a weird thought. If they didn't like it, they could go to hell. When did slavery become a criminal offence in England? It was not in the 19th
one of these odd little new labour laws in about 1996, 7, 8.
What an odd law to outlaw slavery. Is political correctness gone mad?
I only mean odd in the sense that it's a bit late.
Yes, that's exactly right. It was 1807 when the slave trade was ended, and then finally in 1834 it was illegal anywhere in the British Empire to own a slave. It has never been illegal to have a slave in England until April 2010. I'm saying I could have had you as a slave legally.
You mean this series I'm finally free?
Yes!
But you know what? I mean, one of those slaves who just goes back to the master. I don't know what to do. I work for you anyway, please.
One thing is that there are now estimated to be 27 million people held essentially in bondage, in slavery on this planet.
But the show will be over soon.
More,
you can go.
Yeah.
Right now?
More than there ever were in the days of cotton picking and so on.
27 million?
27 million.
In the world?
Yeah, that is the estimate. It's pretty grim problem still, slavery. The point is, it was never illegal in England because it was never recognised as a state of being.
Oh, I wish I'd known that.
There were laws against kidnapping and abduction and false imprisonment and sexual trafficking and all the other things that we might associate with slavery. But it was not illegal for one human to own another human, which it now is.
So this is a law this isn't one of those laws where they thought, oh, that needs clearing up. It's a loose end from history.
It kind of was. In 1967, there were a number of obsolete crimes that were taken care of. Barratry,
had been illegal right up to 1967, which is vexatious lawsuits.
Oh,
Barrett.
Building of
vexatious. Yeah, what they call a vexatious litigant. Somebody just keeps.
Dorothy Squires.
Yes.
Dorothy Squires, the singer Dorothy Squires, towards the end of her life, when she did have a mania, but she was probably the last person to be done for vexatious litigants.
And if you kept prosecuting someone for it, you'd be prosecuting them.
Yourself?
Yeah, well, it's crazy. Anyway, there's scolding. Scolding was a crime in 1966, but not in 1967.
With hot water, you mean?
No, not scalding. Scalding. Scalding!
That was a crime.
You! What time of the night do you call this, Eddie Izzard?
12.
Yes.
12:30.
Well, they give you a good scolding.
And that was illegal?
That was illegal.
Illegal?
Yeah.
And that was legal?
Eavesdropping was illegal. Challenging someone to a fight was also illegal until 1967.
What about going round and round and round about more than 3 times?
It certainly wouldn't have been a medieval law, would it?
Well, I don't know, and if you're in a horse and cart, you have a couple of hours spare.
On a medieval roundabout.
On a medieval roundabout?
Yes. Anyway, there you are. Due to a quirk of English law, it only became a criminal offence to keep a slave in the year 2010. So
there are lots of words called orphaned negatives. So these are words that have the opposites, but nobody uses them. They're now obsolete. So what would be the opposite of ineffable?
Effable.
Effable, but nobody ever uses as a perfectly good word, isn't it?
I've heard people say that.
Effable, it's not effable?
Oh, he's got nice trousers on today. He's totally effable.
Yeah, well, funny, and thank you. I really appreciate it. They're very roomy.
No, there are lots of good ones. Incessant. So cessant, nobody talks about cessant anymore. Well, this is the weird thing about this word, OK? What it tells you in the dictionary is that cessant hasn't been used since 1701. What happened that year? They thought, you know, I'm done with that word.
What about, for you, what about disdain?
Oh, yes,
Because
the opposite
you're...
of being a good Dane, yes,
Yeah.
a disdain.
Disdain.
Yeah. Innocent? Anybody?
Yesn't.
Innocent.
Innocent. So innocent, yeah, innocent was a criminal.
Innocent.
Until about the 17th century, so nocentum, Latin meaning to harm.
Is nonchalant?
So chalant.
Chalant.
Yes. I'm going to refer to you as chalant. I like that. I think that sounds rather good.
Well, chalant.
Yeah, chalant and effable.
Stop it, you.
To be fair, Jimmy, I had to have it pointed out to me. Inflammable?
Oh, I hate... Inflammable and flammable.
Same thing.
It is exactly the same thing. It's not an orphan negative at all. In fact, the opposite of flammable is non-flammable.
Explosive.
I beg your pardon?
Just reading.
Oh, explosive. It used to be inflammable because it comes from the Latin inflammare, but they adopted flammable deliberately in the 20th century because, honestly, inflammable seemed ambiguous, so that is one of the reasons why we now say flammable and then non-flammable.
Right.
Anybody know what a contronym is?
Oh, so it's like, so got synonym?
Yeah.
Antonym.
Antonyms, yes. So it's a word that is also its own opposite. So screen, which means to show, like screen a film, and screen also means to hide. Another example, bound, so fastened to the spot and also heading somewhere.
Oh, that's good.
They're good, aren't they, constants? See, you like this? Fast, so moving quickly, and stuck and unable to move. It's the...
And also, I always thought with fast food, the fast is not to eat, and then also to eat loads really cheaply.
Yeah, there you go.
I think we may need marijuana for this.
Yeah.
It seems to me like this should be a conversation that happens at, like, yeah, man, fast.
Yeah.
But no, man, fast food.
I love that your impression of someone on drugs means you've never taken them.
Antigrams. Anybody know what an antigram is?
It is the opposite of a gram.
So these are words where if you do an anagram, the anagram itself has the opposite meaning to the original word. So
Impossible.
Yeah. Dormitories. Tidier rooms is one. There's one. Customers. I like this one. The anagram is store scum.
There's a few people out there working retail.
Here's another one, an antigram. A volunteer fireman. I never run to a flame. And 45 is an anagram of over 50. It's just a woman lying, basically.